Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Illustration Department podcast. My name is Giuseppe Castellano. In this podcast, I talk to folks in illustration, graphic design, publishing, animation, and other creative fields about their work, the lessons they've learned, and the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. In this episode, my guest is bookseller and founder of Forage Books, Tamlyn Ancone. It can feel like AI-generated books are taking over. It feels bleak. As Tamlyn and I discuss, the reality on the ground is anything but. Among other topics, Tamlyn talks about what an independent bookstore is, other than a place to buy books. We discuss how she stocks her store, literally and morally, and Tamlyn reports what book buyers are looking for, and it's definitely not AI. I hope you enjoy our conversation.
Feeling a little imposter syndrome right now, but
oh man, join the club. I feel imposter syndrome all the time.
I know.
You just at some point you just have to go, you know what, whatever, I'm doing it, it's fine.
Exactly. I was thinking about that last night, that like at some point I had to make the decision to stop letting that be the reason I don't do things, because then I just never do anything because it's constantly on my back.
Yeah. And I don't know, there's something exciting about putting yourself out there, and sure, maybe you crash and burn, but that rarely happens. Like the worst case scenario in your head almost never happens.
Yeah.
The way you think it's going to happen, or you worry that it's going to happen. Often the best case scenario happens, like something cool and good and new and interesting happens. And so then you go, oh, I'm so glad I did that. I want to keep doing it. And then for me, it's like I get back in that cycle of the next time I do something big, I get all nervous and imposter syndrome-y, and so I go through the routine again and again. Yeah. But it is what it is. Like I've said this several times on the podcast over the years. I've done this for 7 years, and I'm still nervous every time I hit record.
I mean, I feel like that has to be the case about anything creative, right? Like I grew up in a very art forward family. My mom is a folk singer and writer. My dad edited a folk music magazine for 40 years. Wow. But like even my mom, who's been a folk singer since she was in her 20s, she's been a folk singer for like 45, 50 years now. And she still feels like, oh, is my voice going to sound right? Are people going to enjoy what I'm putting out there? Even though she's like known and loved and people support her all the time. So it's really interesting to see that like that doesn't just go away with time and experience. It continues no matter what, if that's just the way your brain is wired. And God, I really envy people whose brains are not wired that way.
I do too, but those people tend to then slip down the slope of arrogance.
True. Yeah, I can see that.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw shrapnel in the direction of people who are just super confident and good and kind and not jerks.
Yeah.
But a lot of them tend to be jerks sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's just like they just don't think about the way other people perceive them. So it's not even a matter of not being nervous to fail. It's that like, well, if I fail, I'm the only one that I'm failing. And I don't have that. When I think about failing, I'm like, I'm failing everyone I've ever interacted with. I'm failing like the person I passed on the street this morning if I don't do this job 100% correctly. So
Right. Well, on that front, was that your mom at the bookstore when we were there with my family?
Yeah. So my mom was there that day, my dad, my grandmother, and then my husband was there. But I think my mom was the one that was behind the register with me when you guys came up.
Yeah. She was like by the cash register, maybe chasing a kid around?
Yes. Yep. That would be my son.
All right. Nice.
My 4-year-old.
Lucky him growing up in a bookstore. I'll take that.
He keeps telling everyone that it's his bookstore.
Okay.
So.
Slow your roll, dude.
He also tells people that he's basically a paleontologist. So, I think maybe we're talking about someone who doesn't have that imposter syndrome when we talk about my 4-year-old.
Okay. All right. He's in the other camp. He did say basically a paleontologist. So he's keeping it real.
Yeah, true.
He's leaving the door open for growth.
Probably have like 30 more years of schooling before you can call yourself a paleontologist, but sure.
So speaking of school, did you go to Westchester?
No, I actually went to Hofstra University on Long Island.
Why did I think Westchester? Are you from there?
No, my husband grew up out here. He went to Unionville High School. Went down to Micha in Baltimore.
Right.
But I am a Pennsylvania, New York girly. So I grew up in the Lehigh Valley, went to Hofstra, and then came right back to Philadelphia after I graduated for my first job.
What was your first job?
I was an assistant buyer at Urban Outfitters.
That's right. Urban Outfitters has their headquarters is in Philly.
Yeah, down at the Navy Yard.
What did that entail?
I mean, when I first started out, it was a lot of learning as I went, right? I didn't have any formal merchandising training. I went to school for creative writing with a concentration in playwriting and a minor in religion. Like, no one told me that I'd be going into buying.
Naturally.
Yeah, clearly. Mm-hmm. But I worked my way to pay for room and board and tuition. I luckily had some scholarships and then family support, but I did work, 5 days a week and then went to school the other 2 days in the Urban Outfitters stores. And I worked my way up to being a merchandiser in the stores. And then I had the opportunity to go to home office. And I was like, well, what else am I going to do? I basically went to school to become a waitress. And so I headed to Philly and I really loved it. I loved the idea of looking at what people were interested in and finding new creative ways to do solutions. So I started in the leather goods team. So I was working on like picking belts and bags and wallets and things like that. And then I moved into intimates, lounge, and socks. And then I moved to the operations side of things. And then I ended up taking a break from retail for a while and moving away from urban for a bit.
So this entire time, were you in the back of your head going, one day I'm going to open a bookstore?
I mean, doesn't every person?
1,000,000%. Sarah and I, my wife and I, that there's that WeWork joint about a block down from your store. Yeah. Years ago, this is years before we moved here. My brother-in-law used to live here. And so we would, visit them and drive around Kennett because it's a pretty drive and whatnot. And we would drive by that space. And there was a time when that space was open before WeWork moved in. And Sarah and I were like, what if we just say F it to everything and just open a bookstore right here? Yeah. And we had those dreams. But of course, not only did we not pull the trigger, we had no idea where the trigger even was.
Oh, I still don't. Okay. And I'm sitting in the store.
So when did you decide, I think I might need to do this?
So, I had my son a little over 4 years ago.
Paleontologist.
My paleontologist son.
Yeah.
Being a mother and being a parent is one of the most beautiful things I've ever done. But I lost so much of myself in that time. Back at the end of this past summer, I kind of had this moment where I was like, I don't remember what I like. I don't remember who I am. My entire being is surrounded on making sure this little human is kind to others and eating well and going to sleep on time. And the only thing that I really had that was a constant that I didn't lose was my love of reading, was my need to fall into a book. Shortly after he was born, actually, I thought about going back to Westchester University for my master's. I was looking at doing like a program where I could get my master's in library science and my teaching certificate because I really wanted to go back and be an elementary school librarian. I have thoughts about the state of literacy in our country, and I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Or we can just keep this like really light and fun all day.
Let's not get sad.
Good Lord.
But the truth is that schools are hiring fewer and fewer librarians.
Right.
They are either closing their libraries or having the libraries be volunteer run or having, teachers take shifts in the libraries, which is not a bad thing.
Right.
It did make me think like, well, am I going to go back to school, get my master's, take all of this time away from my son, then potentially not even be able to get the jobs that I went back to school to get. So it didn't feel like the right time. And I think that even that decision was a little bit of me losing myself. I wasn't doing something for me. I made the decision like, okay, this isn't the right time for our family. And at the end of last summer, I kind of had this moment where I just said, I need to do something for myself. And my husband looked at me and he said, I need you to be selfish. Like you don't make any selfish decisions at all. Like I need you to be selfish. I said, well, I just don't want to do something like this and have you resent me. He said, I think I'd resent you more if you didn't try. The space that I had always said, like, oh, that would be the perfect space for a little independent bookstore. It would be a dream space, but it wasn't available at the time, became available right around the time that I was thinking about doing it. And so I finished up my business plan and got my funding in order and went and saw the space, and it was perfect. And now here we are, 7 months later?
Yeah.
Got my key in November. So I guess like
you
5
can't do
months
math
later.
on a podcast.
I can't.
It's impossible.
No, I really
it's
can't.
Impossible to do math on a podcast.
I mean, I started the process probably like 6 or 7 months ago, but then got the keys 5 months ago. So,
I mean, we don't live in Kennett, but I could like roll out of my bed and roll into Kennett if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Painfully, but it could happen. When the news dropped that we were getting a bookstore, you can't imagine how excited. I mean, I'm sure you've heard this story over the last handful of months. People are like, thank goodness you're here. Because it just seems like it's such a miss to not have it. But we used to have one.
Yeah.
And then it closed. It was a lovely little one. And then it became a bookstore hotel.
It's the Bookhouse Hotel. Yeah. So it's a book-themed hotel.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful, but there was this miss of, because I live 10 minutes from the store. So, I would want to go get a new book on release day or go and just like spend time walking through a bookstore. Sometimes you just need to smell pages, right? And
tell me about it.
I would want to go, but in order to do that, I'd have to drive essentially like 30 minutes. And it was a hike. Not that it's not worth it, right? I mean, there are some bookstores that are 30 minutes away that are so like I don't know if you've ever been to Wellington Square in Exton, but they're gorgeous. They're an absolutely gorgeous independent bookstore and they're totally worth it. But having one in your community is so important because for me, bookstores are also a place of connection. It's not just a place to go and buy something, which is hopefully what Forage will be growing into over the course of I'm hoping for the next 6 months, but realistically, probably the next year. Yeah. That will be expanding into some more backspace and having a community meeting space.
Have you been to Book Barn? I think it's in Westchester.
Yeah, I love the Book Barn.
Yeah,
Baldwin's. It is so magical in there.
It's so magical. I mean, for folks listening, it's a gigantic stone wood barn, creaky old oak or pine floors. It smells like 3 centuries of books. They have rare books. They have used books. And I, as a 6'4" tall dude.
Oh, that's got to be tough for you.
Yeah. I have to bend down about a foot to walk around the space, but it's absolutely beautiful. And obviously it's in like one of the more beautiful parts of southern Pennsylvania. So,
yeah. I mean, we are really lucky with the way that Chester County looks.
Oh, Chester County. Bless Chester County. And Bucks County. No offense.
Yeah.
Bucks County. Delaware County too. Sussex County.
It's everywhere.
Going. The whole area.
Yeah.
The whole area.
Sometimes I like look outside and I mean, granted, we do kind of live inside of a Wyeth painting, but
we do live in a Wyeth painting. And Kennett Square, like my family jokes that Kennett Square is basically Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I can see that. I mean, especially now that I'm here, like I already have regulars, which is wild. I wouldn't expect that, but I have people who come in and I know their name and I remember what book they bought last, or I go, to one of our many lovely coffee shops down the road. And like the employees are like, oh, I'm in the middle of that book I got from you the other day. And we can chat about it. And it's just it's everything that you have ever dreamt of if you are a very social person. And I am, in fact, a very social person.
I'm right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what I would do. I'd head into like Filter or what's the one across the street that my kids love? Tallulah's and grab a coffee. It will be a very expensive habit, but I would love it for a month. I love it for a month.
Listen, Cafe Amis has kept me alive for the last 6 months. I tell them that every time I go in. I'm like, well, I live here. So
yeah.
Forage. Yes.
I know the answer to this because I live in this area. And, depending on which way the wind blows, you'll know why. But why did you name this bookstore Forage Books?
So because I was in Kennett, I wanted to make sure to embrace one of the richest parts of Kennett's history.
Good word, richest.
And, Kennett is the mushroom capital of the world, right?
Damn straight it is.
I was telling that to someone yesterday because they came in, they were from Jersey, and they said, why are there mushrooms all over every store? What's going on with the mushrooms in this town? I said, well, probably all of the mushrooms that you buy in the grocery store come from here. If you're on the East Coast. People.
That's real.
So I wanted to make a nod towards that. I also wanted to think about, searching for something. I was chatting with some friends because I had another name in mind that didn't end up working out because there was another independent bookstore with the same name in New Hampshire. And I didn't want to, legally I probably would have been fine, but it didn't feel authentic to me to have a name that was the same as another store.
Can you share it or?
Yeah. It's Toadstool Books. They're an incredible bookstore in New Hampshire.
Okay.
So I had come up with the name and I was feeling so chuffed about it. And then I mentioned it to my boss of my other gig. And she was like, oh yeah, I had a Toadstool Books growing up in New Hampshire. I was like, darn it. but they're beautiful.
Right. It would have been fine.
Yeah.
I get it.
But so I was talking with a friend who actually is, very into foraging for mushrooms. Mm-hmm. She said, what about forage? I said, well, there's no way that's not taken. That's got to be taken, right? Because you think about foraging is the act of searching for something special. Right. When you're looking at shelves of, upwards of 2,000 books, it really is a search, right? Mm-hmm. And then I looked it up and there was no Forage Books. And it just felt so right. And so my husband started working on the branding.
I was just going to ask you, I assumed that, went to Micha, the branding is outstanding.
Thank you.
So I figured I put two and two together. And I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So he is a designer and illustrator. Yeah. And he hand drew the mushroom. That's our logo.
Well done, sir.
I loved it. There was one point, it was a little bit different. He was like, I don't like the symmetry of that. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I like it. He goes, I can't look at it. I have to change it.
Yeah, that was smart.
And adjusted it. But I'm over the moon with how everything turned out and immensely grateful for all the work he put in.
Who made all the design decisions on the interior? All the moss hanging from the ceiling and stuff?
That was me.
Nice.
So, I did ask his, opinion because his opinion is valuable to me. But
color theory action.
Yeah, but really this was a matter of I wanted something that was mine. And so a lot of what you see on the inside while I tested the ideas with others really came from the inside my brain. So the moss hanging on the ceiling actually was done by a florist who's based in Philly. She does work in Philly and New York. Eavesdrop Florals. She and I have been talking about doing dried flower bouquets for the store. And I reached out to her. She's a Kennett grad. And I said, is there any way that you could do a moss hanging on my ceiling? And so she came out and she catted it up and it was exactly what had been in my brain, but just there. And then she came in and did the install in I think she was only here for 2 or 3 hours. It was incredible how quickly she worked. And it really is exactly what I thought it would be.
You're likely aware of this. I think it was, I don't know when it closed, but before you, it was a sort of a toy store, baby clothing, tchotchke home goods type of place.
Yes. And the owner of that store actually was an Urban alum as well. She and I knew each other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense because it was, pretty chic. We moved from Brooklyn to here in 2020. Mm-hmm. We, of course, knew of Kennett, but we weren't fully aware of its game until we moved here. And our kids went to school here and we started going to events here and realizing is this the perfect town?
I think it really is. It really is.
Yeah. Longwood Gardens is just right down the road. Go further and you're at the Brandywine Museum. Mm-hmm. Take a left and you're up in the horse country.
Well, and the hiking is incredible. Right. When we came to look at houses out here, because we met when we were in Philly and then we moved I mean, for Brandon, back out here, for me, out here for the first time in 2021. And when we were looking at houses, when we found ours, I looked out the window and there were horses. From our bedroom window, I could see horses and a baby horse. And I was like, well, I'm buying this house. Like, there's a baby horse outside my window. What am I going to do?
Oh, my gosh. We have the same story, Tamlyn. So we were driving around looking for homes. We pulled into this neighborhood, and it was like misty. It had misted. It was foggy. It was summer, but like a little chill in the air. We turn a corner, and there are deer to our right. Mm-hmm. We both grew up kind of around here, so it wasn't like, oh, what is that? So we saw deer, and we're like, oh, that's pretty. Kept driving. A freaking heron pulls out from a pond and just flies right by our car. It felt like we were in a Disney movie, like all of these. And then like we saw a bunch of bunnies like scurrying into a shrub. We were like, what's going on here? This is being filmed.
I'm
right?
vigorously nodding on this side of the screen.
We even cut off the tour with the real estate agent. Like we walked in.
You're like,
and he's like, okay, so here's the kitchen. And I'm like, let me just stop you right there. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste our time. We're buying the house. So, and we almost lost this house. In fact, we did lose it. We put a bid down. So the real estate agent called us and said, yes, they accepted your offer. We're just going to leave the house open one more day. And Sarah and I, of course, were like, and we lost it.
Yeah.
And of course, the next day, someone saw it and outbid us. So we got into a little bit of a bidding war, which we lost. But I wrote a letter to the owners.
Those letters, man.
And I said, I'm from Baltimore. I went to RISD. I'm an artist. I realized during the tour that their son was an artist. Mm-hmm. So I dropped that in there. I said, my wife is from Delaware. I'm from Maryland. We really love this house. We're coming home. We got married in Greenville, all this stuff. And we got the house because the owner was from Baltimore. And he said he wanted to give it to another Baltimore boy.
There you go.
Anyway.
Listen.
Listeners of this podcast are like, what in the effing F are they talking about? And who gives a shit?
Let's get to the meat of it.
So this bookstore, so I have my experience is I was an art director at Simon & Schuster and at Penguin for close to 20 years when I was in New York. And so children's books is my game.
Yeah.
You have a lovely section of children's books in the back. And the question I have is, I know you can't speak for all independent bookstore owners. Mm-hmm. How do you decide what books to shelve?
Initially, what a lot of independent bookstores do when they start out, and again, I'm not speaking for everybody. This is just something that is available to independent bookstores. We have Ingram Publishers, Ingram Wholesale, which is where a lot of us, if you don't yet have relationships with publishers, you go through them. They will work with you. You fill out a questionnaire about, how much square footage of shelving space you have, what your demographic is in the area, what kind of customer you're looking for, people you don't want to shelve, people you do want to shelve, things like that.
Right.
And they come with a list for you then of, okay, this is how many books you need, and here's what we suggest based on your area, what's selling well, local authors that are in your area, things like that. And then from there, you can make the changes. So I got a list of, I think it was like 1,700 books, which is a lot easier to work with compared to every book in the world. So I went through that list of 1,700 books one by one and took off anyone that ethically wasn't aligned with what I wanted to put out there, which I think is something that is really important for independent bookstores to do, because you're building a safe space, and you are, like, I am a staff of one. So who I choose to shelve and how I choose to shelve them does speak to what my values are. So I went through, made some choices of who I wasn't going to bring in the store. If there were authors or books that I felt were missing, I added them. So I think I ended up adding like 300 books from my own and taking off probably around the same amount. Once that's done and everything is on the shelf, from there, it's really like I am just kind of always keeping my eyes and ears open for what's new, what's coming in, what authors do I love and value that I want to keep an eye on, making sure that I have their new work. You know, what are people talking about? Like recently, I don't know if you've ever read Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. It is a nonfiction collection of essays by this indigenous woman who is also a botanist. And it's just phenomenal. But it was written, I think, like 10 years ago, maybe longer. And recently, there's just been, all of a sudden, everybody's asking about it. Everyone's looking for it. People are really invigorated about it again, which...
Now I'm nodding.
Which I think is, you know, it says something about where we are collectively as people, right? Because the premise of that book is, you know, about indigenous wisdom and going back to earth and what can we learn from nature and things like that.
God.
So
it's like singing my tune.
Yeah. And I'm reading another new book that's coming out in April that's about the resistance that you can have socially while making environmental changes. So there's something to be said about where we are as people, but it's also so interesting to see how many people have resonated with that style of nonfiction storytelling. And now it's like one of my bestsellers. And we're talking about a book that's 10 years old versus, you know, I have a whole table of new releases and they're doing really well, but it's so surprising to see that a 10-year-old book is still selling at that same rate. Yeah. For children's books, a lot of what I carry in the board book and picture book section is based on what my son loved or what I fell in love with while reading to him. Okay. And then middle grade, I'm actively reading middle grade because I think that, you know, that's the sweet spot age, that like 10 to 13, that if we can get them reading, if we can get them excited about picking up a book, that we have the chance of instilling that love for the rest of their life.
This podcast is produced by the Illustration Department, a global leader in online education for illustrators. Visit illustrationdept.com for offerings like mentorships and portfolio reviews, testimonials, our alumni showcase, our best-selling Substack, and more. That's illustrationdept.com. And now, back to our conversation. From the publisher's angle, I was always under the impression that, well, I guess, again, we can't speak so many generalities, so many exceptions. But generally speaking, what my understanding was when I was working in publishing was that, you know, we had a sales team, and the sales team's job was to go to each of their territories with a catalog. It wasn't like a big, thick printed catalog. It was a digital catalog. At the time, it was Edelweiss. I don't know if they're still using that.
Yeah, we're still on there.
Yeah. And they would go store to store and they would call up their contacts and be like, here are the latest releases. And then I guess the bookstore owners would use Edelweiss as sort of a directory of sorts to, you know, fill up or fill out their collections. What's that process like for you? Let's say you have 5 books of the same book. 4 of them sell. You have 1 left. Do you just kind of order as you go? How does Edelweiss play into that, or does it at all?
So I use Edelweiss as a space to discover new titles. So I go in there and I'll look at, okay, what's coming in April, for example, or, you know, I'll look and see if there's anything coming from a favorite author of mine in the next couple months or things like that. So I really use that as a jumping off point because the truth is that there isn't really a repository outside of Edelweiss where you can see all publishers' offerings in one place.
Which is crazy.
And when you go into, you know, wholesale accounts, often there aren't easy ways to sort to what's coming out in the next month. Right. And so I use that as, you know, my first research spot. But in terms of keeping the store stocked, like part of it's just following my gut, right? So right now I do restock based on what people buy. But then every time I place a restock order, I'm, you know, either tweaking the numbers down or up, depending on if I think it's slowing, if the want is slowing down for it or speeding up. If I've heard the same book get requested a couple times. So I do special orders, and, you know, I can't keep my eye on everything always. And I have certain genres that know and love. Whereas like, I don't know a ton about thrillers or horror. Like that's not where we already live in a horrorscape. So, that's not where my
Tamlyn, we said we were going to keep it light
I know.
today.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Right.
But so, I keep an eye on what people are asking for. And from there, I'm like, okay, I've heard this author's name come up a couple times, or I've heard this title come up a couple times.
Right.
What can I do here to make sure that I'm not missing the mark on something that I might not be aware of? Mm-hmm. So I always add a few extra titles when I do my restocks as well.
I'm opening myself up to you to reprimand me on something that I'm going to admit I do. And I'm going to guess that many listeners also do this, even though some may not admit it. Sometimes I'll go into a bookstore, not yours, of course.
Oh, that's fine.
And I'll look for a book. I'll say, do you have this book? And they'll say, no, but we can order it for you. To which I then respond, oh, no, that's okay. What do I do next?
Order it on Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay. So how does that, if someone comes into your store, which I'm sure you've been open long enough that someone has probably already done that for you, to you.
So far, actually, I've been really impressed with Kennett and their zeal for supporting local businesses, because I do have like consistently every week I'm ordering at least 15 special orders for folks, which is wonderful.
If and when that happens to you, I think the answer is really obvious here, but tell me why that isn't something we should be doing, even though maybe you need to wait. You're going to wait another extra day or whatever. What's the benefit of saying, you know what, go ahead, make the order?
Okay. Well, so there are a couple things. So I understand the need or the ease of having something delivered right to your home, right? You can't get it in that moment. You don't want to have to come back out. Not everybody lives walking distance from a bookstore. So ordering something and having to come back, I understand that's not the easiest thing. But Amazon is the way Amazon is because their model is specifically built to weed out and shut down little guys. They underprice books and take a loss on books because they want to make it so people are only going to Amazon. And so and I don't think anybody wants to see what's going to happen when they have a full monopoly. So what I will say is, if you don't want to order through your bookstore, which most independent bookstores are more than happy to special order for you, especially, I mean, for me, sometimes I'm finding out about a book that I'm really excited about, then I get to read it, But if you don't want to do that, there is this really incredible nonprofit, bookshop.org, and they support independent bookstores all across the country. Okay. So if an independent bookstore has a partnership with them, which Forage does, when you go and shop on bookshop.org, you designate your local independent bookstore as yours, and they get credit for that sale. And it still gets shipped directly to you. It is a really incredible alternative. And if you don't have a designated bookshop, it goes into a pool that then goes out.
So we have, the illustration department does have a bookshop.
Oh yeah, nice.
Account. Yeah. And I add to it, anytime I talk to a podcast guest about a book or a book gets mentioned, I add it to our list.
Yeah.
I haven't been on top of it for the past couple of weeks, folks. So don't check right this second. Last couple of episodes haven't been up there. But anyway, the point is, I didn't know you could designate a specific bookstore.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in today and designate Forage if I can.
Thank you. Yeah. It's in that upper right corner. It says choose your bookstore. And you can search for any local bookshop.
Okay. Maybe I did years ago when the other bookstore was open. I don't
Potentially,
anyway,
yeah. And then there's also Libro FM, which is a similar model for audiobooks. So I think that there are so many ways to get away from giving Amazon that leg up on little indies,
Yeah. Is I saw something just the other day. Is Bezos the first trillionaire?
Oh God.
Did that happen?
I don't know. I try not to think about him.
Swear. Anyway, moving back over to the sunny side of the street. So I'm obviously quite aligned with everything that you're saying on the political and social fronts. Let me pretend that I'm not. For folks listening who, and again, we're not here to segregate and separate.
No, not at all.
There's certainly everyone has whatever bugaboos, and I think we're pretty much all in the same boat. We're just being told that we're not, and so we all fight each other instead of fighting the right people.
Yeah, agree.
Okay. That's the end of my political rant. What if, like, what would you say if, not what would you say? How do I ask this question? I really don't want to get in any trouble, so I just want to.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
I want to keep it light. You know, I've been in a good mood. Things are good. I just don't want to get. I don't want people yelling at me for some stupid shit. How is it not like some kind of suppression of speech that you're not shelving voices from the other side of your own social and political party?
I mean, look, I'm not suppressing it, because if someone came in and they said, hey, I want to order this book, I'd still get it for them.
Okay.
You know, I think that when you're talking about an independent bookstore, honestly, even non-independent bookstores, even when we're looking at Barnes & Noble, right? Like, you're making a statement with what you choose to put on your shelves. We're not talking about a library. Libraries are amazing and so needed, but I'm spending my money. So when I buy these books for the shelves, that person gets money from me. So making those choices, like, yeah, okay, it's a political choice maybe, but I'm not telling people not to buy them. I'm not refusing to service people who have those different viewpoints. I'm just making sure that when someone walks into my store, they feel safe. That can mean a ton of different things. You know, that could mean maybe there's a certain children's author or a middle grade author, I will not name, that I loved as a child, and I don't put her on my shelves, right? Because I know that it might make a neighbor feel unwanted or unheard.
Like, who are you going?
Yeah.
Who are you talking about?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, no, we're there. But it might also be, you know, okay, I'm going to put just as many, if not more, Black authors as white authors on my face outs, you know, making a statement in that way, because I think so often, I know how difficult the publishing industry can be, but minority authors are fighting for their lives, really, to get noticed for the same amount of work or more work or better work than their white counterparts. And so I think reading is political on its own, number one. Sure. But I don't think it is political to make a choice to make people feel safe. I think that it is human. I will never turn anyone away who wants to read, because I think that reading gives you a million different perspectives and allows you to grow your empathy. And I hope that anybody who comes in, regardless of political affiliation, can find something on my shelves that will do that for them.
One quick sort of side note suggestion, if I may.
Yeah.
My favorite children's book, it's still in print, is called The Biggest House in the World.
Yes.
By Lionni. And it's very appropriate for the region here. It's about, there's a snail, it's all earthy and mushroomy and whatnot. That sucker would look beautiful on in your back shelf there.
Hey, I'm always open to suggestions. And I have read that and I do love it. Yeah. No, I mean, I am constantly looking for more picture books. A lot of what I have on my shelves right now are pretty nature based, you know.
Did you pick up Fireworks, the one that Caldecott this year?
Yes, I have it on the shelves. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Have you ever read anything Maria Deck?
Wait, what?
Maria Deck. She's an author illustrator. When I Am Big, A Walk in the Forest.
I can't picture it.
Oh my God. She's incredible work. Okay. All of her work is very nature based, and it's really gorgeous illustration as well.
Oh, well, in that case, you should look at Micha Archer.
Yes, I love Micha Archer. Oh God.
She's going to be on the podcast soon.
Oh, that's so cool. I love her. Yeah. Her work's really wonderful. The Wonder Walkers.
Yes. That
was my first of hers that I read, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. Daniel Finds a Poem is also incredible.
I know.
Yeah, I'm a big Micha Archer fan.
Here's what I love about Wonder Walkers real quick, and I'm going to talk to her about this. That book is basically two kids go outside and notice stuff.
Yeah.
And they ask really interesting questions. That's it.
Yeah. It's so good.
That's it. There's no
It's so
crescendo.
good.
There's no climax. There's no conflict. It's just a beautiful ode to walking outside and getting off your GD phones.
Yeah.
And looking at a GD tree and asking some interesting questions about stuff, about life.
Highly recommend also reading Daniel Finds a Poem if you haven't.
1,000,000%.
It is just stunning. And it really is poetry, honestly. I mean, I think that that's the thing that I've found as I've dived back into the world of children's literature is that so much of it is poetry.
Yeah. It's poetry wrapped up in a gallery.
Yeah. You know, my favorite book growing up was Owl at Home by Arnold Lobel. Specifically the chapter Tearwater Tea. I remember like my mom has like bought so many copies of it and like framed bits of it for me. But the idea of saying like, here are the things that make me sad, like a spoon left behind that fell behind the oven, or, you know, a song that nobody was able to hear. And it's like the acceptance of sadness, but in a beautiful way for children is just so, it is, I think that there's so many special books out there that are picture books that are for children.
Sure.
You know, even when we're talking about without words, like Good Dog Carl. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I believe the author the illustrator was Alexandra Day.
No.
There are a few Carl books, but it is a Rottweiler who takes care of their child. Well, not their child, but the human child.
You've given me some homework, Tamlyn.
But there's no words. It's just illustrations, but it's still poetry. It's still, you know, it's still this like beautiful. Like I was talking with a customer the other day about it, and she was saying, "Oh, I remembered it having words when I read it to my children." And I said, "Then you made the words. Like you did that."
Oh, yeah.
And that's a memory that you made, but it's always had no words. You know, it's.
Well, Tamlyn, speaking of no words, and speaking of Southeast Pennsylvania, David Wiesner of, you know, wordless Caldecott medal winning picture book fame like Tuesday and whatnot, he lives in Bucks County. Yeah,
I know. We have so many authors in Southeast Pennsylvania. It is incredible.
Yeah, watch out, Amherst. We're coming for you.
Yeah, I'm so surprised all the time, and especially children's authors. We have a ton of children's authors.
Let's get together.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I'm hoping that once I have that back space opened up, I want to host, you know, time for authors and illustrators to meet and potentially team up, because I know that that's a big difficulty that some authors have or some illustrators have, where like they want to do it, but they don't have the other side of it.
Sure. Tamlyn, sign me up, because that's literally my job.
Yeah.
Day in and day out. I help illustrators with that very thing.
Yeah, that would be a very exciting thing for me to be a part of.
By.
Yeah.
I will go right next door to the donut shop, pick up a couple donuts, head back over. I'll hand you a powdered donut, I assume.
Oh, no. I'm a glazed gal.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right. I'm a friend. I'm a crawler. I used to hate crawlers, and now they're my favorite.
No, a crawler is a good one.
Okay.
But the next door is Cake Donuts, which are also great.
No, that's what I'm talking about. I ain't going to no Dunkin'. I'm going local. Yeah, no, that's I was talking to Rafael Lopez just a couple episodes ago about this very thing, and we're talking about like being part of a community is a way of like not just drowning in like just the constant deluge of terrible news, and you know, let's just get outside and be a part of your community and talk to people and talk to your neighbors, because again, we are all way more alike than the powers that be tell us we are. Anyway, that's my second political rant. My quota on political rants for the year is up.
Well, I'm sorry I've done that to you.
Please, are you kidding me? You know how much I hold back on this stuff.
I know.
Tamlyn,
Me
I swear
too.
to God. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, being part of like. So I'm in. Like whenever you guys decide to do that and bring in some illustrators and authors and do some children's book stuff or whatever, give me a ring.
I mean, I think especially when we're like, I mean, there are two sides to that, right? So first is the community aspect that you were talking about, that I think that I think the reason that I was able to open an independent bookstore is that people are craving community.
Yes.
People want to get back into spaces, whether it's because we've had so much anger the last several years, or because we had several years where we were all stuck at home. I don't know where the trigger is, but I feel like as we've been being kind of pushed towards this more like digital focused, AI focused world, people are kind of rebelling against it and saying like, no, I want to hold a book in my hand that was actually written by a human. I want to talk with someone and have a real conversation and hear somebody's voice and their opinions. And people are looking for that. People are looking for a way to connect. I think that that's part of why this is working and why it did get the reaction that it got, which I still can't believe. And I'm immensely grateful for.
I'm so proud of this town.
I'm proud to be part of it. Like I think about it all the time. And then the other side of things, so there was the community aspect and then the
publishing
aspect. So the publishing side of things, I think that publishers are going to get really surprised as they can't force us to interact with art that's not art.
Yep.
People are really rebelling. They don't want it. It's not what they're looking for.
Is that what you're hearing? Are people saying like, I don't want to see AI art in books?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People feel pretty confidently against it.
And to their credit, like the major publishers are holding their
ground. They are. But what I will say is that I've had plenty of folks come in and they say, oh, I couldn't find an illustrator that I could afford, so I just used AI for it. And I have to say, I'm sorry, I can't carry it.
You're stealing art, you're ruining the environment, you're taking jobs.
And that's another point where it's like, surprisingly, everyone has been pretty accepting of it. If I say that, they're like, okay, I totally understand. But I want to give people a space where like, okay, so if you understand and you didn't want to do it, then let's find another solution. Let's find another place that we can do that.
Yeah.
And I think that you can only build community and build a village by giving it a space to grow. I think that for so long, the US especially, but really all of the Western world has been a fairly individualistic society. And I think that we're finally starting to see how impactful those choices have been.
I sort of like to imagine this movement as sort of like how mushrooms grow. See where I'm going with this?
Yes. Yeah.
Where, you just have it, you just need the right circumstances.
Yeah.
Just a little love, but not too much. Just a little nudge in the right direction. And then it explodes.
Yeah. And I see it happening everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's not just here in Kennett and not just with Forage. I mean, I'm part of a Discord group with other booksellers across the country, and everyone's experiencing the same thing. Everyone is seeing like an outpouring of love, an outpouring of support. People want to be involved. I mean, one of the things I was most shocked about as I was getting this ready was the amount of people that offered to volunteer. They were like, do you need help? Do you need help putting things on the shelves? Yeah. Do you need help cleaning the space or painting the space? And these were people who don't know me from Adam. Like they had no idea who I was. They just wanted to be part of a community. And how special is that? How incredible is that we haven't lost that ability to support each other?
I firmly believe that what we're told online, what we feel, which is valid, what our feelings are valid. Like we're feeling like attacked on all sides by AI and by isolationism and stuff like that's a valid feeling. But I firmly believe, and I've seen it myself, the reality on the ground is the opposite. Yeah. I truly do have hope, and I've seen it. I've heard it. You're proving it. That we're not gonna just go, okay, do whatever, powers that be. Like people are fighting back. There is a groundswell. There is a movement. It's something that I've been feeling along for quite some time, that what we see online, what we read, and what we think is happening, while it's also very scary and there's a lot still that needs to be done and we need to continue pushing back, is on the ground at the independents is happening in a very real way. And it's great to hear.
And I think when you talk about online, right? I mean, there was something that came out.
You guys have a great Instagram game, by the way, which I assume that's you.
I'm tired.
I know.
I was like, I keep saying to people, I was like, nobody told me that I like had to become an influencer.
You were, yeah. Well, you do a good job of it.
Thank you. I'm trying.
I'm noticing.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about online, right, when you're talking about what you're seeing on threads, on comment sections, on whatever, I think somebody did a report came out recently that like something like 50% or 60% of what you see online is bots. It's not real. It's intentionally there to drive us away from each other. And I think that the most radical thing we can do, regardless of what you believe, because at the end of the day, everybody wants the best for themselves and for others. I hope that's what everyone wants.
I agree. I say that, and like the way left leaning friends of mine, all like make fun of me, and they say I'm a closeted Republican.
I mean,
when I say stuff like that,
but I think that like I have to believe that in order to keep going.
I do too.
I have to believe that there is good in people, and that the people who are making decisions that I disagree with are making those decisions because they're scared or because they don't understand. I have to believe that.
Scared, misled, angry, betrayed.
And so my hope is that in this, you called it a groundswell, and I do agree, like in this groundswell of people returning to community and wanting to connect with each other and wanting to learn more. And there's also this increase in people are reading more than they have in like a decade. And I think that fiction and nonfiction, but fiction especially, can be this beautiful mirror into human connection and open up, almost a portal into worlds that you couldn't have understood otherwise. Yeah. I really hope that as everyone is like searching for something real, that it just brings us all closer and closer together. It's all that you can hope for, really.
Yeah. Gosh, I could have ended the episode right there. Well, on that lovely note, so for folks listening who, illustrators, authors, writers, possibly future bookstore owners, one piece of advice, one last word of wisdom, or one sort of observation possibly that you've noticed, that you've heard, really anything that you'd like to leave the listener with directly.
I mean, so we talked about this a little at the beginning. I spent a lot of my life quitting. I spent a lot of time saying, well, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, whatever. I didn't get that right. I'm going to move on. Right. I heard somewhere like, do it scared. And I think that you just have to make the decision to stop letting self-doubt be the reason you don't do something. It's something that will always be on your shoulder. And if you don't make the decisions for yourself and you let it make the decisions, you'll never live.
To learn more about Tamlyn and Forage Books, visit foragebooksksq.com. If you find value in this podcast, consider becoming a patron. In return, you can access bonus episodes, receive invitations to our Art Directors After Hours series, and get a 10% off discount code for all ID offerings. Become a patron by visiting patreon.com/illustrationdept. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.